12,800 years ago, the night sky broke open. A fragmented comet, tearing itself apart in the dark, entered Earth's atmosphere in silence. Within minutes, thousands of pieces detonated in low-altitude airbursts across the northern hemisphere. The shockwaves flattened ancient forests for hundreds of miles and ignited continent-scale wildfires that burned for weeks. Soot, ash, and vaporized ice choked the stratosphere. The sun became a dull red disk. Without that heat, the ocean currents driving warm water northward failed, and the top half of the world plunged into an abrupt, brutal freeze that would last over 1,000 years. The human populations of that era carried the deep, rich melanin required to survive the African sun. Now, these survivors huddled around dying fires, trying to endure the freezing temperatures of a ruined landscape. On the edges of this new winter, a desperate hunter wandered into a blackened impact crater. As he stood shivering, something shifted beneath the newly formed ice. The comet itself was a delivery mechanism. The true threat was the formless, parasitic intelligence hiding inside the frozen debris. It had crossed the void as a diffuse pressure, adapted to absolute dark and crushing cold. Seeking a host to survive the surface, the liquid mass broke through the ice and slid into the hunter's open wounds. The hunter walked back to his people. His family embraced him, but his arms closed around them a fraction of a second too late. His breathing was carefully and artificially controlled. Beneath the skin, the parasite was struggling. The hunter's dense melanin reacted aggressively to the weak, ash-choked sunlight, destabilizing the alien biology. It had to rewrite the body to survive. The intelligence forced a rapid mutation. It thinned the hair into pale strands and drained the pigmentation, lightening the skin to harvest the meager northern light. Staring down at a frozen puddle, the organism studied its pale, unfamiliar face. The reflection smiled. There were no ships, and there were no armies. By rewriting the biology of a single survivor, the parasite secured its first permanent disguise on Earth. To understand their conquest, look at their survival algorithm. The cycle is brutally simple. Observe, enter, copy, expand, drain. Over the centuries, this loop accelerated. Whenever humans developed a new tool or cultural symbol, the parasites absorbed it, stripped its meaning, and reproduced it. As civilizations grew, so did they. They positioned themselves within the highest levels of law, commerce, and governance. To them, the original melanated humans were never neighbors or equals. They were raw biological and labor resources to be consumed. A hostile takeover is most effective when the host doesn't realize it's happening. The human species spent thousands of years assuming the people leading their societies were exactly like them. But a system based entirely on parasitic extraction cannot process an act of pure sacrifice. Back in the brutal freezing years of the impact winter, an elderly human woman sat near a dying fire. She broke her final, meager piece of dried meat in half and handed it to a starving child. Watching from the shadows, a hidden mimic experienced total biological confusion. Surrendering a critical survival resource to someone else without any personal gain violated its core programming. It could not categorize the action. The sheer weight of that altruism overloaded the borrowed nervous system. The image of the woman's warm brown hand offering food burned itself directly into the parasite's neural architecture. That quiet gesture of compassion became a corrupted file. It embedded deeply into the mimic genetic lineage, surviving for thousands of years as an indestructible memory. Fast forward to 2026. The world is a grid of glass, data centers, and fluorescent lighting, where mimic-run institutions exert absolute systemic control. Yet outside these towers, the demographic reality tells a different story. The vast majority of the human species still wears the deep melanin of their ancestors, and the volume of their art, music, and shared history creates a constant cultural pressure against the mimic systems. Inside a high-rise boardroom, A young executive stands at the peak of this hierarchy. He finishes a presentation. The room erupts into applause. Then a glitch. For a fraction of a second, he sees snow, fire, a brown hand breaking a piece of food in half. After 12,000 years, the density of modern human data has become too high to filter. The mimics are surrounded by images of the very compassion they cannot understand, and the ancient, inherited memory has finally broken through the executive's parasitic programming. Retreating to an empty bathroom in a panic, he grips the edges of the sink. He stares into the mirror as his physical composure begins to unravel. The biological disconnect happens in an instant. His reflection in the glass blinks. His actual eyes remain wide open. The reflection looks back at him and whispers, "You remember them." The mimic identity collapses. While the executive breaks, the world outside is independently uncovering the same truth. Artists are painting the ancient fire, musicians are encoding the original rhythms, and historians are identifying the same cold parasitic pattern in every fallen empire. Through the static of millennia, the ancient woman still holds out the broken food to the darkness. In 2026, a single tear rolls down the executive's cheek as he recognizes the faces of the people he was meant to replace. The act of compassion survived the freeze, the fire, and the invasion. Some memories don't belong to the people who remember them. They are mimics,